Divorcestatistics.org says 40 to 50% of all first-time marriages will end in divorce. As to why that is true or false is not for me to say, but it is necessary for us to never sweep the topic of divorce under the carpet, because it is a bug that has eaten deep into the fabric of our society and has overpowered the essence of marriage. Hello and welcome to Let's Talk. My name is Olujo Kemosaku, and the topic before me today is solutions or divorce. My guest is Mrs. Ibukun Yaabari Gbarakpor. She is a counselor and also a fashion designer. So stay with us. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Mrs. Ibukun.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So the topic is solutions or divorce. But I know everybody knows what divorce is, but as a counselor who has counseled a couple of people over time, how would you define divorce?
Divorce is the legal or official dissolution of marriage by a court or a competent body. But when it is officially made, officially a body, for instance, the dowry, or the family returns the dowry to the man and says that, the man said, I don't want your daughter anymore, take your daughter, and the family returns the dowry, that is divorce. That is, it is being made official, so it is divorce. But when you just leave your spouse and you just go away for a while and that is separation. But after a while, if you extend beyond a particular number of years, you are tending towards divorce already.
Why is it that today people talk about divorce like it's just a water that is coming out of the tap without nothing holding it except you put it off again?
It's very disheartening that divorce is rampant these days. And I think the reason is because people are not really prepared before going into marriage. They do not know what marriage entails. Just go into marriage because, okay, I'm in love, I love him, he loves me, and they marry. Or marriage, and also they go into marriage because of pressure, peer pressure, pressure from parents, pressure from relatives that, you're of age, how come you're not married, blah, blah, blah. And the man or the woman just feels that, I have to do something about this. Okay, I love him, he loves me, and they marry. But marriage entails just more than love. You have to be mentally ready for marriage. You have to be mature. Maturity is not about age. Maturity is a thing of the mind. When you are mature for marriage, you'll be able to weather the storm. But when you're not matured, it's tough. Flimsy things will happen, and it can even lead to divorce. So I think that these are some of the reasons why divorce is rampant these days, and because even in the Western world, divorce has been rampant years back. So even in Africa now, everybody is taking it up like, it's not a big deal, it's not a big deal. But it is a big deal. It is a big deal. Marriage is supposed to be a lifetime thing. So, and before you can call it off in a marriage, that means you have really tried all you could and it's not working before you can call it off in a marriage.
Okay, you said something about people not understanding what marriage entails, what marriage is all about. What exactly is marriage?
When a man and a woman come together, it's not just them, they have relatives. So all of these come to play in marriage. So it's coming together of two families, becoming one. Two individuals from two different backgrounds becoming one. So that's what marriage is.
Okay, so what would you say is the cause of divorce?
There's several reasons why people divorce. Let me just mention a few of the causes. One of it is domestic violence, emotional violence, or physical violence. Then there is issue of infertility, health issues, and just to mention a few. When they are unable to bear children, after staying together for a while, sometimes if they really want to have children of their own, sometimes they go their separate ways to look for children elsewhere. Then the issue of domestic violence, when either of the spouse is violent, and so that it does not have to involve for security of life. For security of life, they are advised to go their separate ways, of which, if afterwards they seek counsel and they're not able to survive to come back together, they go their separate ways. Also, the issue of infidelity, when either of the spouse is adulterous and is getting out of hand, and one of the couple cannot bear it any longer, they go their separate ways. Also, health issues, when either of the spouse two, when they have issues that is life threatening, and the other spouse is not supportive, it can lead to divorce.
Okay, to further ask, what are the dangers of divorce, especially to children and probably extended family?
The dangers of divorce are enormous. Let me just mention a few. Some of the dangers of divorce is both on the couples and the children and the family at large. Let me talk about the children. The children, they become it affects them negatively, and psychologically it affects them, emotionally it affects them, to the point that it might affect their level of performance in the academics. It starts dropping. Then also it affects their social activities. They become withdrawn. Some are even going to depression. And also it affects their character. Some might become aggressive, easily irritated, and get angered easily. These are the ones that can affect the children. Therefore, the family, the extended family, it can lead to disunity in the extended family. For instance, if you're in a family whereby some members of the extended family, they like the wife, and some are saying that the wife is bad, for this reason or for that reason, and it eventually leads to divorce. The family might be in disarray due to that. And on the couples themselves, it affects them negatively. The stigma it brings, they are stigmatized, and also for them to balance, it takes a while. Also, it affects relationship between the parents, either of the parents. Imagine that the children are still very young and they have to go with their mom. So the father and the children relationship might dwindle. It weakens the relationship between the father and the children, and vice versa, as the case may be.
Okay, so let's just quickly go on this break, and when we come back, we continue from there. Stay with us.
Hello everyone, my name is Janet Bablo, and I'm here to talk to you about a show called Let's Talk. Let's Talk is a show on DNT Work, DNTWOK on YouTube. I would like for you to, watch the show. I've been on the show. The show is educative, it's informative, it's amazing, and it's hosted by the one and only Olujoke Osako. So don't forget to hit the like button, make sure you share, and make sure you subscribe.
If you're just joining us, the program is Let's Talk on the NT Work. And I have been speaking with Mrs. Ibukun Yaabari Gbarakpor. And we've been discussing the topic, divorce. Solutions or divorce. Thank you so much, ma'am, for what you've said so far. It's been wonderful having you on the show so far. So, going forward, is divorce the solution to a failed marriage?
Is divorce a solution to a failed marriage? The first thing I will ask is, what do we term as a failed marriage? I think no marriage should be referred to as failed. No marriage should be written off. So divorce is no solution to a marriage that is going through a challenge. divorce is not a solution. I think couples can look inward, like how I would tell people when two people are going into marriage, you should have it in mind that this marriage is going to work, and both parties have a role to play. So when both parties are playing their roles well, you barely have issues. And there's one thing I learned while I was in the university. One of the courses I did, it says that conflict is inevitable. It is how it is managed that matters. So they are bound to have conflict. So it is how it is managed that matters. So when you and your spouse have a problem, you make up your mind that every problem we have, we must resolve it before we go to bed. You know, it helps marriage a long way. And when you have problems that you think that, oh, you can't handle it, you seek professional advice. When you seek professional advice, if, God willing, you'll be able to get help and you know how to move on with your relationship with your spouse. So I wouldn't say that the solution to a challenging marriage is not divorce. The solution to a challenging marriage is to seek help. If you need help, seek help.
You talked about seeking a professional to help them come out of whatever problem they may be going through in their marriage. Now, what is the place of counseling in helping couples who are tilting towards divorce?
The place of helping, of counseling, helping couples tilting towards divorce. Is that what you said?
Yes. If you have examples of people you've worked with as a counselor in church, what are the success stories?
So far, I've not had any couple going to divorce. I've only had one that they are separated for now, you know, and seeking help to manage their situation. But counseling does not help you go towards divorce, except either of the party is not willing to change. For instance, you have an abusive spouse, a physically violent spouse. You know, this is life threatening. So you will not advise the other person, the other party, to stay in the marriage. You advise them to separate for a while they seek advice, while they seek counsel rather, while they seek counsel, and while seeking counsel, you know, they still endeavor to relate and to see how it works.
So, because you actually spoke about what I was going to ask you the next, because of course we know that the Bible says divorce is not good, but the Bible also gave us instances whereby you can divorce your spouse, and that's on the basis of adultery. But in this age and time, it's beyond adultery, which brings me to the point you mentioned: abusive marriage, intense conflict marriage, marriage with the partner, where the partner has a mental issues, and so many other things that we might not be able to mention, even things that we do not know. Now, this is something that our religious institutions will want to shy away from. And some religious leaders have boldly come out to say some things about it. Now, you said they temporarily separated, going through counseling, help. But some would say it's better to leave the marriage alive than to be in the marriage and die. How have you been able, or what do you think can be done to actually stem down this issue and avoid people dying unnecessarily, even though they know that, okay, they are going through counseling? And there is another thing that I actually noticed, that when people get divorced, they celebrate the divorce. This is to let us know that there is trouble, or there is more to it than beats the eye.
For an abusive marriage, the advice is this: you have to be separated for a while until the abusive spouse seeks counsel and is checked even mentally. The person has to be checked to be sure that the person is mentally balanced. And when the person has realized his or her mistake and is willing to change, then they can come back together again. And also, I would advise that when you are willing to make it work, and you are willing to come back together again to see if the person has changed, I would advise the other partner, to be careful, not to incite the person, so as not to aggravate him or her. You understand? While you are checking, because why I would say this is because, for instance, a spouse is abusive, you go your separate ways, and after taking counsel, you come back together. God forbid, it might be the next incident that will lead to this other spouse's death. So that's why I'm saying that the person should be very careful, be very sensitive, and watch the person closely to see if he or she has truly, because that's once the life is lost, you cannot take it back. In those days in Africa, when a marriage wants to take place, the parents will do a background check on on the girl's family and on the guy's family, check to see them insights of who the person is going to be. But these days, you just see, I love you, and marriage takes place. So I think before marriage, it's also good to have counseling before couples are joined together. It's advised that couples go through counseling before they are joined together. This helps also in marriages.
Thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful having you on the show. And do you have any final word? Do you have words of wisdom, advice, quotations you would want to share with us?
First of all, I want to say thank you for having me on this show. Then I would like to advise that there's no perfect marriage. There is no perfect marriage. And like I said before, conflict is inevitable. It's only how you manage it that matters. So when you have conflict, when you have misunderstanding in your marriage, you make up your mind that before we go to bed, at most, I'm just saying at most, before we go to bed, let's ensure that we discuss it. It is key. In marriage, communication is key. In marriage, good communication is key. If you have good communication with your spouse, you'll be able to avert 90% of the problems we have in marriages these days. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. So you see, in every marriage, communication is key. You have to communicate and express yourself. Divorce is not a solution to everything. There should always be a place of communication, a place of letting go of self and just digging in. And also, in order not to get to that point, it's advisable for you not to rush into any form of marriage except you are 100% sure that you can weather the storm when the storm rises. Until next time, when I come your way again, I remain Olujoke Mosaku. Bye for now.